99% of shooters still think an air rifle is something you pull out of a box on Christmas morning. Those people have never stood behind a barricade at the Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge, watching a .22 caliber slug punch steel at 150 yards in a 15-mile-per-hour crosswind. Look, the Centerfire guys laughed. They called it a toy discipline. Then the prize purse hit $20,000 and the laughing stopped real fast. This is 2026. The game has completely changed. The rifles on this list are not backyard plinkers. They are not pest control tools. They are precision instruments built from the ground up to dominate time stages, barricade props, and win calls that would humble a seasoned 3-gun competitor. 5 rifles made the cut. Only one of them takes the throne. And when you see what is sitting at number 1, you will understand why the whole precision rifle world is paying attention. Let's get into it. Number 5. And honestly, this is where a lot of guys start their journey and then never leave. The FX Impact M4 is the most recognized air rifle in competitive shooting. Full stop. Released for the 2025 and 26 season, this is the 4th generation of a platform that has been refined, stress-tested, and tuned by thousands of competitors across every major national match. Street price runs from $2,300 for a standard compact all the way north of $4,000 for a fully customized Air Marksman Sniper Edition. That range tells you everything about how deep this rabbit hole goes. Here is the deal. What separates the M4 from every previous impact is the AMP Mark II regulator. FX completely redesigned the internal brass piston. That single material change transformed how the regulator breathes between shots. It does not creep overnight. It does not drift between strings. You put the rifle down Friday evening. You pick it up Saturday morning at stage 1, and that first shot breaks at the exact same feet per second as the last shot the night before. That is not marketing language. That is the kind of mechanical consistency that wins matches. The STX interchangeable liner system is the other weapon in the M4's arsenal. You are not married to one barrel configuration. Pull the liner, drop in a 700mm Superior Heavy slug liner, optimized for .22 caliber boat tail slugs, and you have a completely different ballistic personality in under 5 minutes. The rifling is pressed from the outside of the steel tube, leaving the internal bore smooth as glass. Less friction, less fouling, more consistent energy transfer shot after shot. The quick-set trigger is another genuine leap forward. 2 stages, fully adjustable, no tools required, no disassembly. For a positional shooter hanging off a barricade with one hand, the ability to set that second stage break exactly where your finger expects it is not a luxury. It is a mechanical necessity. Now, the deal breaker, and this one is real. The M4's greatest strength is also its greatest financial hazard. The aftermarket ecosystem built around this platform by companies like Sabre Tactical and Air Marksman is completely unparalleled and completely dangerous to your bank account. A continuous ARCA rail here, a weighted bag rider there, a carbon fiber 700cc bottle. Before you know it, you have spent $2,000 in accessories on a $2,300 rifle. The platform practically dares you to keep spending. For a disciplined buyer, that is a conversation to have with yourself before you ever pull the trigger on purchase. Throwing .22 caliber slugs downrange at 900 feet per second, this thing sounds like a sharp knuckle rap on a hollow door. Not loud, not quiet, mechanical, precise, like the rifle itself is telling you it is working exactly as engineered. This is a solid, battle-tested platform. But wait until you see the absolute pneumatic monster sitting at number 1 on this list. Stepping up the power and the craftsmanship, the Epic TWO comes out of the Czech Republic, and from the moment you pick it up, you can feel the old-world European precision engineering in every machined surface. Retail runs from $1,840 up to $1999, depending on configuration. For a platform of this mechanical sophistication, that price point is almost offensive in the best possible way. Sets you back less than most competitors spend on optics alone. Here is what makes the TWO genuinely different from everything else on this list. It runs a high-power balanced valve, and most shooters have no idea what that actually means mechanically. Here is the breakdown. A standard firing valve requires the hammer spring to work against the full holding pressure of the air tank every single time the rifle fires. At 300 bar of fill pressure, that is 4,350 psi for the Americans doing the math, you are asking a spring to crack open a valve pinned shut by an enormous column of compressed air. That takes a heavy, stiff hammer spring. That heavy spring creates cocking effort. That cocking effort becomes fatigue over a long match. Epic solved this with a balanced valve design. The internal architecture uses the air pressure itself on both sides of the valve simultaneously. The pressure essentially cancels itself out. The hammer spring only needs to overcome a fraction of the holding force. The result is a side lever cocking action that feels like pulling a knife through warm butter, while still allowing the valve to swing a full 3 millimeters open. That 3 millimeter aperture dumps a massive column of air behind the slug, generating up to 114 foot-pounds of energy in 25 cal configuration. Buttery smooth mechanics, brute pneumatic output. That is the balanced valve doing exactly what it was engineered to do. The 121cc power plenum feeds off dual manometers, keeping the shooter informed of exact pressure status at all times. The externally adjustable regulator lets you tune your velocity without cracking the action open. For the long-range 22 caliber competitor, the 700mm variant comes with your choice of premium unchoked barrels from CZUB or Lothar Walther. Both run a 17.7-inch twist rate. Both are parallel bore with zero choke at the muzzle, because solid slugs and chokes simply do not coexist. You want a choke on your slug barrel about as much as you want a screen door on a submarine. Sound off below. If you have run the Epic TWO on a barricade stage or a bench rest table, drop your honest group sizes in the comments. Prove the skeptics wrong. Now, the deal breaker. And this one is purely about build aesthetics. The stock furniture on the base Epic TWO, while functionally solid, has a noticeably utilitarian plastic finish that feels slightly out of place next to the precision machined aluminum chassis underneath it. When you are handing over $2,000 for a rifle, the cheek piece should not feel like it belongs on something that costs $400. It works perfectly fine. It adjusts cleanly. But it is a visual and tactile reminder that the budget went into the barrel and the valve, not the furniture. Competitors frequently swap it out immediately for aftermarket alternatives, pushing 22 caliber lead downrange through that unchoked Lothar Walther liner sounds like a firm, muffled thud, like dropping a hardcover book flat on a wooden table in a library. Deep, contained, entirely backyard friendly. Loyal Hannah, Pennsylvania, a small town, an absolutely unsmall air rifle. The Skout EVO is the only rifle on this entire list that does not use a hammer, does not use a spring, does not use any traditional mechanical firing component whatsoever. Base models open at $2,150. Premium custom anodized match configurations climb all the way to $4,950. And once you understand what is happening inside this action when you pull the trigger, that price range starts making complete sense. Every other rifle on this list, including the legends above and below it, operates on a fundamentally ancient principle. A compressed spring drives a heavy steel hammer into a valve pin. That mechanical collision generates a shock wave that travels through the chassis the same instant the slug begins moving down the bore. Thousandths of a second of vibration, thousandths of a second of crosshair movement. At 30 yards, that is invisible. At 150 yards, that is the difference between a hit and a miss. The Skout EVO eliminates that problem at the source, completely, permanently. Here is the mechanism. The EVO fires via a high-speed solenoid valve controlled by a central microprocessor. When the electronic trigger micro-switch is engaged, and we are talking a contact point measured in fractions of a millimeter, the processor sends an instantaneous electrical signal that opens the solenoid for a precisely programmed duration. Engineers call that duration dwell time. You can think of it as the exact number of microseconds the valve stays open to release a perfectly metered column of air behind the slug. The only moving internal component during the entire firing cycle is that lightweight solenoid valve. No hammer mass, no spring release, no mechanical collision. The result is a shot cycle so mechanically quiet that the crosshairs do not move at all. Competitors watching through high magnification optics can track the slug's vapor trace from muzzle to target in real time and make an immediate wind correction before the next round is even chambered. In a timed PRS stage where every second counts, that real-time feedback is an almost unfair advantage. The onboard full-color sunlight-readable screen lets you dial valve dwell time digitally, monitor both regulators simultaneously, and customize the entire firing sequence without touching a tool. The lithium battery charges via USB-C under the backstrap panel and runs for weeks on standby. This is not an airgun that happens to have electronics bolted onto it. The electronics are the rifle. Barrel technology matches the sophistication of the action. The factory hybrid bull barrel bonds a thick carbon fiber outer wall permanently to an inner alloy liner. Extreme rigidity, reduced front weight, superior harmonic dampening. Upgrade to the Lothar Walther polygonal liner in .22 caliber, and you get a 1 to 15.75 twist rate. That aggressive rotation gyroscopically locks a heavy 30-plus grain boat-tail slug through the transonic flight phase at distances that would send a traditional pellet tumbling into the dirt. The chamber indexing system adds another layer of precision obsession. Dual barrel locks at the chamber and at the forend allow the shooter to rotate the barrel incrementally, find the exact rotational position where harmonics produce the tightest groups, and lock it there. Mark the number. Return to that exact spot after every cleaning. Because at 100 yards, barrel harmonics are not theoretical. They are measurable. Now, the deal breaker. And for a rifle this electronically sophisticated, it is a practical one. The EVO is entirely dependent on battery power to function. No charge, no shot cycle. Period. In the field during a multi-day match, a dead battery is not an inconvenience. It is a catastrophic equipment failure. USB-C charging is fast and universal, and the standby life is genuinely impressive. But a mechanical rifle will fire its last round, whether the power grid exists or not. The EVO demands that you manage one more variable in your pre-match checklist. Forget it once at a major match and the consequences are severe. Firing the EVO sounds less like a traditional air gun and more like a sharp pneumatic exhale. The kind of sound a precision machine makes when it releases exactly as much energy as it intended to, and absolutely nothing more. Clinical, deliberate, like a surgeon setting a scalpel down on a steel tray. Closer to the crown, one rifle stands between us and the #1 spot, and it has the match results to back up every word. Rank 2, Karma Red Panda, $2,400. Consecutive victories at the Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge. Back-to-back podium finishes at the Extreme Bench Rest and the PA Cup. The Karma Red Panda does not ask for your respect. It has already earned it on the stage. This rifle was not designed by a marketing department staring at a spreadsheet. It was born directly from the feedback of top-tier competitive shooters, most notably associated with the record-setting performances of Thane Simmons, who needed a platform built around one singular, uncompromising obsession: stability. Raw, mechanical, physics-defying stability. And the architecture of this rifle reflects that obsession at every single level. Start with the plenum, 200 cc's. Let that number land for a second. Every other rifle on this list is working with somewhere between 121 and roughly 150 cc's of staged air. The Red Panda is sitting at 200. That is not an incremental improvement. That is a fundamentally different pneumatic philosophy. Here is why it matters mechanically. The plenum is the chamber of precisely regulated air staged immediately behind the firing valve. A larger plenum means the regulator does not have to work exhaustively to replenish that chamber between shots. When the regulator is not straining to recover, pressure stays dead flat across the entire shot string. Dead flat pressure means dead flat velocity. Dead flat velocity means your point of impact at 150 yards does not move vertically between shot 1 and shot 30. That is what 200 cc's buys you. Not raw power, absolute consistency. And the raw power is there too, up to 109 foot-pounds in 30 calories. An astonishing 159 foot-pounds in 35 calories. For the PRS competitor running 22 or 25 calorie slugs, that massive plenum translates into a firing cycle so smooth it feels almost artificially gentle for the energy being delivered. The primary air supply runs a dual-cylinder system with a 700 cubic centimeters total capacity and a maximum fill pressure of 310 bars. That is 4,496 pounds per square inch, highest fill pressure on this entire list. And to manage that extreme pressure accurately, the Red Panda runs dual stainless steel externally adjustable regulators. Not one, two. The primary regulator steps the tank pressure down to a manageable intermediate level. The secondary regulator then precisely manicures the exact pressure delivered to that 200 cubic centimeters plenum. Two-stage reduction, zero pressure creep. The last shot of a 30-round string exits the muzzle at the exact same feet per second as the first. The chassis matches the pneumatic ambition. Custom super-grade chromoly bull barrel, heavy aluminum frame, continuous Arca Swiss rail underneath for instant tripod and bipod deployment, multiple M-LOK slots, 90-degree textured pistol grip, fully adjustable shoulder pad and cheek piece. This rifle is unapologetically, deliberately heavy. And on a Barricade bag or a bench rest table, that weight becomes a weapon. An inert, immovable, vibration-absorbing weapon. The deal breaker is real and worth acknowledging before you write the check. That championship-winning weight is a serious liability the moment you step off a static firing line and into a mobile hunting context or a run-and-gun stage with significant movement between props. Competitors who run mixed match formats, transitioning rapidly between prone barricades, kneeling positions, and standing offhand shots will feel the Red Panda's mass in their shoulders and forearms by the final stage of a long match day. This is a rifle engineered for dominance on a fixed position. Ask it to sprint, and it will remind you of its priorities. Pushing 25 caliber slugs through the chromally bull barrel sounds like a heavy wet crack, like snapping a thick green branch off a hardwood tree in dead winter silence. Sharp, authoritative, the kind of report that turns heads on a range without being rude about it. The number 1 spot, the throne. And this rifle did not inherit it. It was engineered specifically to take it. Rank 1, FX DRS Pro MDT $728,999. One rifle. And the clearest argument in the history of competitive airgunning that the line between a pneumatic platform and a centerfire precision rifle no longer exists. The FX DRS Pro MDT 700 is what happens when the most innovative airgun manufacturer on the planet sits down with the most dominant chassis company in all of centerfire PRS competition and asks a single question. What if there were absolutely no compromises? The answer to that question won the 2025 Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge. First place, $20,000. On a platform that costs less than a third of the centerfire rigs it was competing against in training, here is what separates the DRS Pro from every other rifle on this list, starting with the architecture that no other manufacturer has successfully executed at this level. FX completely eliminated the external air bottle. Gone. Instead, the high-pressure air reservoir wraps concentrically around the barrel itself in a tank-over-barrel configuration. That single engineering decision solves the single biggest ergonomic problem that has plagued competitive PCP platforms since the sport began. Center of gravity. The weight of the pressurized air volume is distributed evenly along the longitudinal axis of the barrel, placing the balance point directly at the magwell, the exact same balance point as a custom centerfire precision rifle. Set the DRS Pro on an Armageddon Gear Game Changer bag on a Barricade prop, and it sits there, inert, patient, without the shooter fighting to hold the nose up or the tail down. That is not a minor ergonomic convenience. That is the mechanical foundation of a consistent shot under match pressure. Now consider what the Red Panda, the two-time RMAC champion, sitting at number 2 on this list, does exceptionally well. It delivers a virtually unmatched 200 cubic centimeters plenum with dual stainless regulators producing dead-flat velocity across long shot strings. Extraordinary pneumatic engineering, but the Red Panda asks you to manage a heavy, deliberately bulky chassis that penalizes you the moment the stage demands mobility. The DRS Pro takes the same AMP Mark II regulator technology, the identical brass piston precision that made the Impact M4's velocity consistency legendary, and delivers it inside a chassis that weighs and balances like the centerfire rifle already in your bag. The shot-to-shot consistency of number 2, the ergonomic neutrality of a $10,000 powder burner in a single platform. And then consider the Skout EVO at number 3. The Electropneumatic solenoid system that produces a genuinely recoil-free shot cycle and allows real-time trace watching through the optic is a legitimate technological marvel. But the EVO demands battery management as a match-day variable and carries a premium configuration price that climbs to nearly $5,000 before you have mounted a scope. The DRS Pro delivers a mechanically refined firing cycle through the AMP Mark II's regulator precision at a street price that keeps the best optic budget intact. The MDT ACC Elite chassis integration is the final argument that closes the case entirely. The ACC Elite is not an airgun chassis that borrows ideas from the centerfire world. It is the centerfire world's most dominant competition chassis, trusted by the top PRS Open competitors, adapted without modification to accept the DRS platform. Every external weight, every internal dampener, every ergonomic adjustment a competitor runs on their $9,000 centerfire rig transfers directly to the DRS Pro. Same length of pull, same comb height, same grip angle, same barricade feel. A competitor can run 500 rounds of .22 caliber slug practice in their backyard for the cost of 50 rounds of 6.5 Creedmoor at the range, and every single one of those repetitions builds the exact same biomechanical memory as their match rifle. The 700mm Superior Heavy STX liner pushes .22 caliber high BC boat-tail slugs at precisely tuned velocities governed by the AMP Mark II. The one-piece Picatinny rail carries a machine 30 MOA incline from the factory, not as an aftermarket add-on, not as an optional upgrade, as a standard out-of-the-box feature, acknowledging that this rifle was designed from its first blueprint to reach out past 100 yards. The pre-installed slug power kit means you are competition ready the moment the case opens. Firing the DRS Pro sounds like a controlled single syllable exhaled through clenched teeth, focused, deliberate, barely a whisper of mechanical effort for the precision being delivered at the other end of the flight path. This is not the best air rifle on this list because it has the biggest plenum. The red Panda owns that category. It is not the best because it has the most technologically advanced firing system. The Skout EVO owns that category. It is not the best because it has the deepest aftermarket ecosystem. The Impact M4 owns that category. The FX DRS Pro MDT 700 is the #1 long-range PRS air rifle of 2026 because it is the only platform on this list that simultaneously solves the balance problem, the consistency problem, the ergonomic training problem, and the competitive performance problem, and then backs all of it up with a first-place finish at the highest stakes airgun match in North America. That is why it takes the throne. Every rifle on this list represents the absolute cutting edge of what pneumatic engineering can deliver in the American market right now. From the battle-tested modularity of the Impact M4 to the European balanced valve precision of the Epic TWO, from the electro-pneumatic revolution of the Skout EVO to the heavyweight championship pedigree of the Karma Red Panda. These are not toys. These are not compromises. These are the instruments that are rewriting what long-range precision means in 2026. The FX DRS Pro MDT 700 sits at the top of that list, not because it shouts the loudest spec sheet, but because on the stage, under pressure, with a timer running and a 30-mile-per-hour wind call to make, it simply does everything right. The centerfire guys had their decade. This one belongs to air. If you want the raw truth without the marketing fluff, lock it in right here.